Hi, this is going to be my Rogue One reaction video. I'm going to do the first part without spoilers, and at a certain point when I want to talk about spoilers, I will mention it first, so you'll have a warning. Non-spoilery stuff, I just saw Rogue One, and it was much better than I expected. I actually I'm kind of blown away. I really didn't expect that much. I was of the mindset where I was always much more interested in episode 8 and future stuff than past stuff. But I think I had no lower expectations, but I'm kind of blown away by how good this movie was. So that's great. The feel, it did not feel like I would have expected. It didn't feel Star Warsy, but it still felt very familiar, and so it did feel Star Warsy at the same time that it felt like something else, like a different. I think the better word would be to put it as a different perspective on Star Wars. It was much grittier and dirtier. You see. It's not much of a spoiler to say that there are stormtroopers in the movie, right? But there are like the stormtroopers are dirty, and you don't really see. I mean, yeah, you have biker scouts in Return of the Jedi, but you don't see dirty stormtroopers. It's a dirtier movie, right? Like if Star Wars is from the top down, from the general's point of view, this is from the private's point of view, and it's so interesting. The attention to detail was fantastic in this movie. There is so much little things, and I probably didn't even catch half of the things that were hidden in there because there's so many references and little things hidden throughout the movie. So that's really cool. The characters were much better than I expected. They were not just you're going to be the hero, you're going to be the sidekick. The characters had compelling personalities. I cared about these characters. They were in some cases fascinating. In some cases, maybe a little underdeveloped, but it's a standalone movie, so I'm not really expecting everybody to have an incredibly deep backstory. There, the whole thing, it didn't. I've heard people say that it ends really well, and so I was expecting it to be boring up until the end, but that wasn't the case. It was really interesting all the way through. There was a lot of stuff. Now it did end very, very well. But I do have a little bit of a gripe with the ending, and it's maybe just my own opinion. So, with that as a segue, I'm going to switch over into spoilery talk. But before I do, I just want to say overall, blown away. I have a huge galactic boner right now, and it's amazing. And I probably teared up like 7 or 8 times during the movie just out of pure awesomeness. So now we're going to start talking about spoiler talk. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, don't want any spoilers, then go ahead and stop watching now. All right. So, oh my gosh. So I'm gonna talk about what my gripe is. If you have seen the movie, it kind of ends. It leads right into episode 4. Leia gets away in the Tantive 4, and I hate that it's pronounced Tantive. Leia gets away in the Tantive 4, and the reason my gripe is this. Vader in episode 4 says, "You weren't on any mercy mission this time." Like she's like "Oh, what? We're on a diplomatic to Alderaan. What are you capturing us for?" And Vader's like, "I found out your secret." Right? So you're making it seem like she's just cruising along. But at the end of Rogue One, she flees the battle. She was in the battle. She was attacking the Empire, or she was in the attack and just like scooted away. And I didn't like that. Like, how could she even pretend like she was on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan? That doesn't even make sense. Like that part didn't make sense to me. So I would have expected them to beam the plans to a ship that was passing by. Was what you expected. All right, we're all gonna die, so let's transmit these plans to Leia in the Tantive 4. That was probably my only gripe. Was a little surprised that everyone died, pretty much. I was kind of expecting for a couple of people to survive, but pretty much well, I won't say everybody, but pretty much everyone dies. So that's something else. Now, the CGI and the effects were amazing. All of Tarkin's scenes, he was a little bit in Uncanny Valley, but he was like if Uncanny Valley is he was about right here. He was like climbing out of Uncanny Valley. So that was really, really cool. If you don't know what Uncanny Valley is, Google it. Basically, it's when we try to make something artificial look human, but we're not quite there yet. But yeah, Tarkin was amazing. The voice for Tarkin was amazing, and if you've read the books, I read Catalyst and Tarkin. I mean, if you just seen the movies, you might not realize how important Tarkin is, but he's incredibly important. He's equal in status as Vader is to the Emperor. So he's really a trusted person. He's like maybe the most trusted person in the Empire, or one of them. Maybe Masamita, maybe a little bit more than him, but really, really big deal. So Tarkin was fantastic, but all the other pilots, Pops and Dutch were there. I mean, there was like all these pilots were freaking awesome, and then Leia at the end, awesome. Still a little bit, you can tell it's CGI, but it's not, it's not so bad that it takes away from anything. And it was I don't know if it was unexpected. I think it was unexpected for them to do it the way they did. I think I might have expected it just to be like the back of somebody's head, but no, they didn't just, that would have been a cop-out. And they really went, the whole mile here. It was amazing. The extra mile, whatever. Amazing. The space battle at the end, oh my gosh, the space battle at the end was amazing. Best space battle in a long time. When that hammerhead went to ram, well, first off, there's a new ship, lots of new ships, as a matter of fact. A lot of smaller ships. There's some Corvettes that looked like they were armed to the teeth. I don't know if they were CR-90s or maybe something CR-100s or whatever, but I noticed more than one new ship type. But obviously you have the big Rebel Command ship. It's a Mon Calamari ship. So that's really, really cool. I'm expecting some new gameplay stuff from that. So that's awesome. There was... Speaking also of gameplay stuff, there was the TIE Striker, right? We did see some of these, but there was a command version of the TIE Striker with like it was a much larger ship, but also had like the shuttle crewed cockpit. So we may see another TIE Striker-esque looking ship coming to X-Wing that would be maybe on a large base or something like that. That's possible. I'd have to, again, I still have to see it again. I only seen it once because this just came out. So next up, the space battle. So we're still talking about the space battle. The new Mon Cal ship looks awesome. There was, we got to see hammerheads on screen. The Ghost was there. I'll talk more about the Ghost in a minute. So the hammerhead ramming the Star Destroyer. My favorite part of the movie. Some people say Vader was their favorite part of the movie. Vader was awesome, but my favorite part was the hammerhead ramming the Star Destroyer. I thought he was just going to try and ram it and like blow it up. No, and it was awesome. He's like, all right, we're here, we're stuck. We kind of got lodged in a little bit. Kick those engines in, and poof, and he does this, and they go, and they're like, and they took down the whole shield. And I'm too excited. I'm probably going to break something. I break a lot of my ships on camera. I got to stop. Let's not break any ships today. Okay, so that was epic. And the way the whole top section of the Star Destroyer here came off and then just shattered into space as it was grinding against the other one. Oh, that was insane. And if you play Armada, you know that there's going to be a title for a hammerhead that allows it to do extra damage when it bumps. The hammerhead's going to be your ramming ship. I'm almost certain of it now. That was so amazing. I mean, the whole space battle was really, really good. They were doing bombing runs. They were attacking all those TIE fighters that came out. I was really hoping we would have saw more Imperial ships, nor more new Imperial ships. I didn't see any new Imperial capital ships. So maybe, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do about that. Maybe it'll show up in Rebels. Okay, so let's talk about some more skill stuff. Vader was awesome, right? So, I was a little disappointed because I've heard people say Vader was great, and so I'm watching, and I'm not, well, don't get too far ahead of me here. I was a little disappointed halfway through the movie, 3/4 of the way through the movie, because you had a scene with Vader kind of in the middle, and, he was kind of cool. He was a little snarky to Krennic, and I'm like, okay, Vader's cool. He's like sitting in his back to tank trying to heal. That's kind of interesting. What's going on? Is that just how he chills out? So I'm thinking, is that it? Is that why people thought Vader was cool? Because he was sassy, and I'm like, I don't know about that. And then at the very, very end, I'm like, oh, that's it. Okay, and so Vader was kicking some butt. Vader kicked some serious butt. That whole scene, too. That whole scene was fantastic. It kind of reminded me of like these epic scenes from Netflix shows like Daredevil or or Luke Cage or whatever, when they go into this amazing, scene where they just walk in and just wreck the entire building and just beat up everybody. And that's what happened with Vader. Vader went straight up Luke Cage on these dudes and just wrecked the place. And it was awesome. And it was good, man. It was really good. So that was awesome. I really liked K2SO. I think he might be the best character in the movie. Maybe. Cassian Andor actually was really cool too. Jin was great, but I think I felt like I already kind of knew a lot about Jin, having read Catalyst, knew about the Urso family. I liked Galen. I respected Krennic. Well, I knew kind of what Krennic was about. Cassian, I expected him to just be kind of like a noble guy, and he was actually kind of a bad dude. And I was like, oh, how very real. Like when he kills a guy right at the beginning, a guy who's kind of on his side. He's like, you're gonna get me killed too. You know what? I'm taking you out. I was like, whoa, this guy's he's not squeaky clean, and I thought he was gonna be squeaky clean. So I'm like, all right, you're a bad dude. And that turns out to also be a plot device because it motivates him to try to, to go with her, and it worked. It worked on such a good level. But K2SO, so funny, just awesome. Awesome. He was very, very well timed comic relief, but he wasn't over the top comic relief, which is very important too, because it wasn't like he went too hard. It didn't try to go all Jar Jar Binks on you, but it was just very, very well done, very tastefully done. This movie was Star Wars for grown-ups, and I probably wouldn't take a kid. Like my 7-year-old wants to go, or wants to see it, and I don't know unless we stop before the end, because everybody dies, and granted, the very, very end shows, ends with Princess Leia, so it kind of ends on a higher note, but everybody dies a downer, and kids aren't going to like that. So I don't. It's not Star Wars for kids. It's Star Wars for grown-ups. This badass, dirty, gritty Star Wars for grown-ups. Oh man! All right, so we talked about the ships. We talked about how about Chirrut Imwe, Ip Man. Donnie Yen was awesome. Baze Malbus was also very, very awesome. I'm anxious to see how they'll get represented in some of the games too, like maybe Star Wars Destiny or Imperial Assault, because I really liked their relationship, their dynamic. That was awesome. That was very, very good. It was a little bit funny, but it was also kind of deep, and the fight scenes were great. Both the shooting fight scenes and the martial arts, which were exceptionally good. But if you've ever seen any of the Ip Man movies, you kind of knew what to expect coming into that. But Donnie Yen is a hell of a martial artist, and also a good actor too. I'm really glad that they got him. It was a shame that he didn't make it through, because I would love to have seen him show up elsewhere. Although I suppose, because they do talk about that they were guardians of a temple, of the Kyber crystals, that we could see them in Rebels. Like they could easily be a cameo. It's very possible. Speaking of cameos, now I'm going to talk about the Ghost. If you didn't catch it at the very beginning, not the very beginning, but one of the first times we go to Yavin 4, the Ghost is landed there. Now I know some people saw the Ghost in the trailer. The space battle, honestly, there was so much going on, I did not even catch the Ghost in the trailer. There were so many people, it was so busy, so much on screen. I wonder if any of the crew of the Ghost are in the background. So I don't know. I would love to see it again. This is going to be a must-buy for DVD, so you can pause and be like, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? And also, speaking of cameos again, C-3PO and R2-D2 were there. That was awesome. Very nice little cameo. General Dodonna was there. Lot of little, and there's probably a ton of cameos I missed. So all in all, really, really great movie. I'm going to sit down and process it some more. I'm probably going to dream about Rogue One tonight. I loved it. I loved it so much. Have you seen it yet? Let me know what you think in your comments. Is there any cameos or hidden things that maybe I missed that you noticed? Hopefully I'll catch them on my second time around. And thank you so much for watching, guys. And please go ahead and subscribe and leave a like, and comments are much appreciated. Thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you.